Hello and welcome to Effective Forecasting with Tempo's Client Services Solution, where we will inform you how to improve the efficiency, productivity, and profitability of your project operations with an integration of Timesheets, Cost Tracker, and Planner by Tempo. Now, the great news is that everyone on this call is familiar with at least one of these solutions already. And our goal is to communicate how all three of these solutions, these products, help with client services, in addition to the new integration within this powerful triad, how that will benefit your organization as well. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Chris Chapelier. I'm a product marketing manager at Tempo, specializing in Timesheets, Planner, and Cost Tracker. I'm out of Annapolis, Maryland. And with me is Marc-Andre Thibodeau. He's a software developer and team lead at Tempo, based in Montreal, Canada. And he's one of the co-creators of Budgets by Tempo, who's responsible for the development of Cost Tracker. And later, he'll be demoing the new integration between Planner and Cost Tracker in this presentation. Before we get started, let's go over a brief agenda. So first, we'll talk about what we mean when we say client services. And then we'll go over some of the common problems associated with client services projects. We'll go over the products and integrations between these products of Tempo's that make up the client services solution set. We'll talk about the new feature that brings the value of Timesheets, Planner, and Cost Tracker together, known as project forecasting. Marc-Andre will then walk us through a demo of the new forecasting features, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Now, when we talk about client services, what are we talking about? Just to provide some clarity, and for the purposes of the webinar, we wanted to use an all-encompassing term to include all departments that work on projects that are directly associated with customer and client accounts. Now, these can be known as professional services or consulting, or even projects that are run by customer support or customer success departments. Now, some activities that are related to these types of projects are listed on this slide. Activities that Tempo is well familiar with and helps with already. Tracking billable hours, allocating talent, getting the right people on the right projects at the right time, recognizing the revenue by project. And the last one, monitoring project performance, risk, and profitability. And I want to focus on the term risk because that's one of the things that project forecasting accomplishes, is able to manage the risk of your project success or failure. And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about later in this presentation. Now, Tempo knows that it's one thing to obtain a new client. It's another thing to keep them satisfied and keep them as clients. And customer success and support activities and professional services related projects need to be delivered in a timely manner while utilizing your talent effectively and efficiently, which is a big challenge. However, this is much easier said than done. In fact, it may seem sometimes that you're flying blind once these projects have been committed to. And so once a project begins, you'd be asking yourself some of the questions that are in the bubbles on this slide. Are we properly utilizing the time of our team members? Are we billing the right amount of hours? Are we tracking toward completing the projects in the time we quoted? Do we budget properly? These are all questions that can come up once projects are underway. And not having the answers to these questions can lead to some pretty big problems. Limited data and visibility. When data is limited, managers have poor visibility in their teams and projects. It can be difficult to know the right ways to quote and budget client services projects. Decreased profitability. Incorrectly utilizing your talent coupled with poor project financial metrics can turn a project into one that loses a company money, even if the customer is happy. Poor client retention. Customers and their needs are continually in flux. By adopting real-time reporting and analytics, businesses can make timely and effective decisions that help them stay ahead of their clients' expectation. And inability to predict project resourcing needs or forecasting capabilities can hurt project performance. And we'll be getting into how Tempo helps with forecasting. Now, Jira is an excellent tool for managing those projects that we include in this client services category. This is especially true as organizations take on more customers and become more customer-focused as they grow. So as more clients come on board, managing their satisfaction levels becomes even more important. Project success will determine whether or not you'll be tapped again for their needs. So when we talk about client services, which products of Tempo's are we talking about? Well, in addition to many other business functions, client services efficiencies can be established by adding the additional tools to Jira, like Planner, Timesheets, and Cost Tracker, like I have on this slide. Now, with these three tools working in conjunction with each other, benefits can be gained from the customer, and actual teams providing the services can be gained, as well as senior leadership, adding up to a win-win-win scenario. Now, when used together, Planner, Timesheets, and Cost Tracker create what I like to call cyclical improvement. You find the right people or teams for your projects in Planner, you work them into the project plan, you have those same people accurately track their work logs in Timesheets, and then you manage your project progress, financials, and success in Cost Tracker. Now, let's briefly take a look at how these products benefit your client services or operations individually before we talk about how they work together to achieve project success. Now, so before you start your projects, you need to know who's going to be involved. And Tempo Planner is a great tool for this task, for it lets you know the availability, the skills, and the roles of all your organizational talent, so you can have the right people in the right places at the right time without the risk of overutilizing or underutilizing or going over capacity. Now, you're also going to take advantage of viewing team capacity as well as individual capacity. You can also assign roles and skills and skill sets, like I mentioned earlier, so those planning the projects know who's best suited for the job. And if you have both Timesheets and Planner installed in your Jira instance, you can compare plan versus actual time log to get better insights into how well your planning is working. Now, once you have the work planned and assigned to your team and team members, you need them to accurately track the time spent on tasks within the project. Use Tempo accounts to organize time and distinguish between billable versus non-billable hours and track time effortlessly and accurately for your client services projects. You can track time against the time plan so that a customer can be accurately invoiced for the work quoted. Now, Timesheets has AI-powered suggestions to make logging time even more efficient and effortless, so your team members won't have to spend as much time finding the issues and projects they are working on within Jira. As mentioned before, Timesheets also has Tempo accounts that not only can easily distinguish between billable and non-billable hours for your projects, but also give users the ability to organize log time by customer. And now you have Cost Tracker, where you can gain a holistic view of your projects by leveraging the data in both Timesheets and now Planner to view the historical, real-time, and projected costs and revenues to ensure project profitability and customer satisfaction. You can manage your projects by setting budgets, setting cost and billing rates, and adding expenses to get a full picture of the financial health of your client services projects. Now, Cost Tracker also gives you the ability to set cost rates by employee and role for more accurate bookkeeping and project analysis. Also, you're able to quote your customers with hours. You have the option to quote your customers with hours instead of dollar amounts for businesses that operate on a budget per hour rather than dollars. Now, I showed this slide earlier, but wanted to put it in the context of how these Tempo products integrate with each other. I mentioned earlier that Timesheets and Planner have an integration where you can view the plan versus actual report within the two to show how well you were planning your time versus how much time was actually logged to particular tasks and projects. And then you have the Timesheets and Cost Tracker integration that takes work log data and shows labor costs in addition to adding billing rates, budgets, and expenses to your Cost Tracker projects. Now you have the new kid on the block, project forecasting. Now, this is the new integration that we'll be showcasing within this presentation that shows the integration between Cost Tracker and Planner, something that didn't exist until last month. So to provide a little bit of context of what project forecasting can do within Cost Tracker, I wanted to show you what a Cost Tracker project looks like without the Planner Cost Tracker integration. It has this great data in it. You have your budget and budget milestones indicated by the orange lines. You have your revenue indicated by the purple line, and the blue shaded area, that's your costs. But you'll notice that there's a empty spot here because this is showing the full scope, the full duration of the project, but you're only viewing historical and real-time data. So with the new forecasting feature, that box is filled in. And you're also able to see other information such as projected costs and projected revenue, in addition to total cost, budget, and revenue before. And that was the overview tab. On the scope tab, you're able to see the same metrics, the projected labor, projected revenue, in addition to what's in the orange box. So by task in Jira, you're able to see the remaining cost, the remaining time, and remaining revenue for the tasks in Jira based on the plan data that's integrated within Cost Tracker. And now for the team, and also in the team tab, you have also the projected numbers that I've shown earlier, and the same remaining cost and remaining time, remaining revenue by team member as well, based on that data that's already been planned and hasn't yet had the time logged to it. Now, there's some big benefits that you can gain from having this project forecasting feature between the Cost Tracker and Planner integration. Now, you're able to make more accurate predictions Because with Cost Tracker's current capabilities, as I showed, users are able to see some great information, but only up to a certain point. Forecasting can help users predict what will happen based on what already has. You can discern recurring patterns. You can go beyond guesswork. Use the data to drive your future. Cost Tracker helps you discern recurring patterns in your projects, enabling you to make more accurate and future predictions. Better forecasts mean more successful projects. You can also plan for uncertainties, whether it's resource allocation changes, budget fluctuations, or unexpected market shifts. You can steer your project confidently towards success. And then you can also review and adapt. Wrap up your project on a high note, not just reviewing, but also celebrating what went well and learning from what didn't. You can compare your forecast with the actual outcomes and identify any gaps. So I run through what our products do, the integrations and the new feature, but now I'm going to turn it over to Marc-Andre, where he's going to demo this new forecasting feature.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to demonstrate how effectively Cost Tracker can leverage the data that's captured through timesheets. So the time tracked as well as plans captured through Planner in order to keep an eye on your project and portfolio costs, past and future. So here I have a project called Jira project called Planet ProServe, on which I've got some work logs in the past from some users, as well as plans in the upcoming period. So until the end of the year. So these plans can be on user stories, epics, no matter which level you want to plan on. So based on that information, now if we can navigate to Cost Tracker, which is accessible from this item from the Tempo sidebar, can get on that dashboard, and so here you can create your projects. So a Tempo project is going to allow you to track a certain scope, which is defined through a Jira filter and associated with a time frame and a budget, and will give you visibility on your project costs and revenues. So let's see how this is set up. So here I've got this filter on the project I've showed you before. I can enter a default hourly rate here and press create. So after a few seconds, I'm going to see my scope showing up. So as defined by my filter here, with some data right away. So right here we get some things, some pieces of information that are gathered from both work logs and plans. So this, for instance, is the time frame that's calculated for me based on those work logs and plans that pertain to the scope I've selected. So this is not something I've entered. It's calculated, as well as a team. So if you navigate to the team tab, you're going to see this list of users that actually have log time already, or plan for who we have planned time again on the scope that is associated with that project. So the next step might be to go to the configuration. So if you know what deadline is going to be is set on this this project, if you know what the time frame is, you can specify it manually here. This is all optional. So that way, instead of having a dynamically calculated time frame, it's going to be set and visualized in the various charts in the tool. At the same time, we can specify a budget. So let's put a number here. Now, if we navigate to the overview tab, we're going to see that visible here. So you can see now that this time frame ends at the end of the year, and this orange line appears showing the budget. So that blue region below is the costs. You can see today's date as this vertical line here. So everything to the left of that line comes from work logs, to which we apply cost rates as defined in the configuration. I'm going to show that to you later how it's done. And everything to the right of that line is coming from plans. So planned cost, again, applying cost rates depending on people's roles that are added on top of the current actual cost, so which generates a projection here. So let's look at how rates are set up. So again, back to the configuration, you have a cost rates tab. So for all people who are showing in the team, you can set up rates. You can see that the default cost rate is going to be used for whoever doesn't have any cost rate information. For other users, roles have been assigned automatically by the tool based on past assignations. So again, it's not something I had to set up manually, but you can edit that as needed. Same for rates. Here, rates are associated to the various roles globally. So they are already initialized, but you can modify them as needed. You can also, if this rate is going to change over time, you can add a second rate for the same person. So let's say December 1st, that person's rate is going to move to a different rate here. So those rates are going to be applied as relevant based on the dates of plans and work logs. So if we go back to the scope, so now we can see those rates being applied. I just want to show also the revenue tracking. So if you're a service company, then most likely you want to track revenues as well, probably applying a different set of rates for billing. So turning revenue tracking on here, I've got a second tab that appears to set up billing rates this time. So it works the same way as for cost rates. You can have default rates that have been pulled from the global configuration. I can come in and edit those as needed. So now that I've turned on revenue tracking, if I go back to scope, the scope tab first, you can now see this purple line that shows the revenue. So that's the actual revenue, again, based on work logs, but this time applying the billing rates that I've specified through the configuration. And this dashed purple line that shows the projected revenue, again, based on those future billing rates for those same people. So now I've got those revenue totals and projected, also some extra columns showing below, so revenue and billable time per task. Same goes for remaining revenue here. So again, you're gonna also see those extra columns on the team tab and the revenue information in the overview here. All right, so one thing to mention in the from the scope tab, you can get some pretty valuable information if you want to start drilling down the data in more details. So what you see here is based only on the future plans from today onwards. But it's possible from the scope tab to get exports of very detailed information per work log and per plans with a lot more information. So if you, for instance, look at the first one is the labor cost. So each line here corresponds to a work log on which you can see what's the task, what's the user who have logged it, what was the role, the cost rate, billing rate, incurred cost, incurred revenue, and if applicable, any account information and customer information that is captured and associated to the task on which time was logged. So same goes with plans. So if you export here the planned labor costs, this is going to give you a complete picture of all plans and planned costs and revenues that you have in this project. So each line here is a planned amount of hours on a day by a certain user, a certain task. So again, you get all the same information, corresponding costs, corresponding plan time, and revenue with all the proper rates that are applied. So that can help you make some comparisons between actuals and plans, for instance, for the entire time frame of the project. Since here all planned information is shown, not only in the future, but for the entire project's time frame. Now I'm going to show you a project that has a bit more data to it. So I haven't mentioned the expenses tab. So this is where you would capture any non-labor related costs, for instance, equipment, lease, etc. So this is represented in that chart as the light blue region that's added on top of labor costs. And one thing that's interesting here, so you can see, for instance, this project has a total cost that is under budget. So it looks fine. But with this projection that shows here in that budget line, now you can see at what point in time in the future, based on the current plans and billing rates and cost rates we have, at what point the cost is going to go over budget. Like in this case, for instance, on November 22nd, if nothing changes, we're going to go over budget. So that might be a call for action for you, for your project managers, in order to maybe adjust the plans accordingly, or maybe request more budget, etc. So next thing I want to mention, so this is at the project level. So initiative level can be bound to maybe an epic, maybe a collection of epics, maybe a Jira project. You define it as needed, as what fits for your organization. You can also create portfolios that collect projects together. So that's going to give you an overview across multiple projects. Here I have one portfolio created already. So from this page, you get a brief overview. So the number of projects in this portfolio, number of team members, total cost. If I click this tile, I get a more detailed overview across this collection of projects. So it's the progress on these projects and the individual budget and costs, as well as the totals here at the top. As well, you get some staff information, aggregated information on those projects. This also gives you a timeline view, so giving you a visual representation of how your projects lay out in time across this portfolio. So one last thing I want to mention. So this is actually a sneak preview of an upcoming feature that's just around the corner. That's going to make all this information, both at project and portfolio level, even more valuable. So we're going to be introducing a reports tab, so the cost and revenue report, which if you are familiar with the server product, Tempo Budgets, this is ported over from there, the most used report on the server tool. So here you're going to be able to create reports that will allow you to drill down on a certain period, both at project and portfolio level, and apply all sorts of filterings on accounts, roles, expense categories, etc. So here, for instance, I'm going to create so let's say I'm going to look into planned costs for the current quarter. So here you can select whichever type of cost or revenue you want to drill into. You can filter, and let's break it down into monthly periods. So this is how this can look like here. So for every month in the current quarter, you're going to get the details of how much effort was planned, what was the incurred cost for each individual. If you had expenses there, it would include expenses as well. So this is under development, but coming soon in the product. That completes the presentation. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna pass the control back to Chris.
So just to give a recap of the webinar, we talked about the different challenges you have with client services projects that you can experience. We gave an overview of Tempo's client services solution, and then we introduced Tempo's new planner cost tracker integration, and then talked about the benefits of forecasting before the demo that Marc-Andre did. So all three of these products, these Tempo products, are available on the Atlassian marketplace. In order to have forecasting work, you do need all three of them. So I highly suggest that if you're not using all three, to download free trials of the ones you're not using and give this a go. It's a very valuable feature. We're very excited about it. We're trying to get as many customers of ours to use it. So it's all available on the Atlassian marketplace. So head on over there and we can and download your free trial if you're not using any of them. And just to reiterate, yeah, so this is the triad that I was referring to, or that I showed earlier, to show how you can achieve project efficiency, project health, and project forecasting when you have all three of these Tempo solutions where you plan, you track, and you manage, and you have the cyclical efficiency that I mentioned earlier. So right now, we're going to head into our Q&A session. We've had a lot of questions flowing in. A lot of them have been answered. So let me see what else hasn't been answered. So would it be possible to insert external incomes, not only cost, in cloud?
So this is not currently in the product. Definitely something we will could consider. So I don't know if we can maybe direct you to an idea in the idea portal for that. Definitely something that could be looked into. Okay. Not currently there.
Here's another one for you, Marc-Andre. Is there a place to store a solid block of hours per customer / organization and keep track of the hours consumed?
So you mean not using work logs? Is that, I don't know if that, I understand this question correctly. So currently the source of the time tracking is really done through work logs only. So there's not a way aside from expenses. So expenses could be used for that purpose, where you want to track costs that are not related to work logs. That would have to be captured as an amount of money, not an amount of time.
Here's one. Is it possible to handle two different rates / prices for the same person, but working on two different projects? And then second part of the question, is it possible to handle euros and US dollars on the same project now?
Okay, so there is, as I showed, cost rates and billing rates, but if you want to use two different cost rates for the same users, then that's going to have to be collected through two different projects that you can then associate together as a portfolio. So a given project only allows you to associate one set of rate per user. So it can be multiple rates over time. But if you want to have the same two different rates applied on the same date for the same user, that has to be configured through two different projects.
And then is it possible to handle euros and US dollars in the same project, or does that have to be two different projects? I'm sorry if you already answered that part.
So in the same portfolio, yes, not in the same project. So currently we don't have currency conversion implemented. This is again a feature that we're considering in the future to allow enter multiple currency expenses and rates in the same project.
Okay, so here's one. If you apply a custom time frame and then tickets that are in the filter are out of the time frame in the future, are the estimated hours for those tasks included in the forecasted costs? Or is there any flag to show that there are tickets essentially hidden outside of this specified timeline?
Okay, so if you have an explicit time frame, so you've manually set the time frame, only plans within that time frame are going to be accounted for in your visualization. So there is no indication per se that there's anything outside. So you would have to revert to a calculated time frame to see the entire collection of plans and costs and actual costs pertaining to that scope.
For fixed revenue projects, can we add that in to show on the graph distinct from revenue that is linked to hours worked?
So similar to the first question, I believe. So not currently. So we don't allow, for instance, setting a budgeted revenue or planned revenue at this point. Neither we're allowing yet to track specific revenue amounts, just like we do for expenses, but for revenues. So this is something we are considering for the future as well.
You might have already answered this, but can we have different rates for the same person with different roles in one project?
No, again, so similar to my previous answer. So currently, one user can have only one set of rates and one role in a given project. So again, it would like if you want to have the same user to show with multiple roles, that would have to be split into two separate projects. Remember that a project is bound to a filter, so it might be possible for you to adjust and create filters that collect issues for which users will have a certain role versus other. So if this can be differentiated based on anything that pertains to issues like labels or accounts or something like that in your JQL queries.
Can you limit cost functionality to levels? I don't want others in the organization to know the rates of employees, or is it a best practice to use a default industry rate?
So we're currently, the visibility of all the information in Cost Tracker is controlled by an JIRA global access permission, so the Tempo Cost Tracker access permission. On top of that, visibility of information within a project is limited to its owner and whoever you share the project with. So this is controlled user by user. And rates are set at the role level currently. So I haven't shown that in the demo, but in the global settings for Cost Tracker, you can specify rates at the at the role level. So these are going to be applied as defaults in your different projects. We are planning to introduce the possibility to set up globally user rates, but that will come with extra permissioning for sure. So the minute we're going to move away from blended rates, then that's going to be requiring some more control.
You talked about reports, Marc-Andre. Is there anything on the roadmap for an external report so clients can see their hours used against a project/initiative?
External user to Jira, not at the moment. So the report I've shown as a preview, this is going to be shareable with other users by URL, basically to other Cost Tracker users in your organization. But for now, and one thing to mention is that this is going to be possible to export as CSV. So the CSV obviously is going to be something you can share at your convenience through email or whatever, but not the in-app page itself. So we're not planning to expose that externally at this point.
Someone asked, is there a free trial period for Cost Tracker? Yes, it is. For 30 days. If you go to the marketplace, you'll be able to download that and have it integrate with. If you already have timesheets, yeah, you should be able to download Cost Tracker, and it's free for 30 days. This one's for you again, Marc-Andre. Can Can you mix within a single cost tracker project in a useful way tasks that are sold for a fixed price and tasks that are billed by an hour?
So you can collect the tasks the way you want, as long as it's possible to capture that in JQL. But again, there's no task associated cost aside from work logs that you can specify in the tool. So the expenses would be the way to go for flat amount, flat costs that you have for project. Those expenses are not associated to issues, though you can associate them to tempo accounts. So that would be a possible indirect link with issues that you can put in place. So expenses associated to accounts, then you can get that detailed information again through CSV exports or through the API at the moment.
Excellent. And this is a question about the demo, something you showed in the demo. When will the new report feature be made available, and will it allow custom reports to be created as well?
Custom reports, no. So this is going to be flexible in the sense that it has many parameters that you can play around with, but it's not going to be customizable per se. So we're working on it currently. It's under development. We hope it's going to be available this year, if not early next year.
Can we add initial estimates directly in a project? And then can we add more fields from Jira, like story points, into Cost Tracker?
No story points in Cost Tracker. So estimates, if you mean estimates at the task level, no, it's not possible to specify those estimates. So plans play that role in the suite. So the idea is that you would create plans through Planner at the level that makes sense to you, maybe at the epic level or user story. So there you would plan hours, and then they would be converted to planned costs in the tool in Cost Tracker.
Excellent, thank you. This one says, I understand that this is driven by time. How do you suggest to bring in revenue forecast based?
So there is, in terms of budgeting, there is a budget milestone feature available. So it's possible to specify various planned costs. As I mentioned before, though, it's not yet possible to budget revenues. So definitely something we will be looking into in the future. Most likely it would work similarly to planned costs, so you could be able to budget your revenue through milestones as well. So with different, basically specifying your planned revenue in steps over time.
Okay. If we have a budget of hours, say a customer has bought 500 hours, can we show that the client has incurred 300 hours from work logs? Therefore, we know that they have 200 hours left.
So the tool, when you create a project, you have the option to configure a project to be time-based instead of money-based. So this might be what you're looking for. In that case, you're going to be able to, you're going to be essentially tracking everything into hours. So all the same functionality is there aside from the expense tab. So you're going to be seeing work logs and plans and budget, but everything in hour. So you're going to essentially be seeing how much of your budget of hours you've burned over time.
Can the cost fields be represented in advanced roadmaps? Currently, and this prevents exporting labor data.
So no, the cost information is proprietary to Tempo. There is, though, definitely upcoming plans to provide that information through Structure. Structure, which is another add-on of the suite that can be used for higher level visibility. So it will be possible eventually to see costs and revenues through Structure, achieving a similar visibility on your backlogs as what you get through advanced roadmaps.
Excellent. Well, I think that's all the questions we have right now. Again, I want to thank you, Marc-André, so much for the great demo and answering all these great questions. To all these lovely people on this webinar today. Any questions that we didn't get to or I may have missed, we will be sure to get back to you on them and get you answers. Again, if you want to try out any of these solutions, head on over to the Atlassian Marketplace. They all have 30-day free trials. And again, thanks again for joining. And if you have any other questions in the future, feel free to contact our support desk. Thanks again, and talk soon.